As I understand, this is contingent upon rebuilding the Yukon Health Center also, correct?
Yes, it's part of that process. But let me just say that we were in a competitive process here.
That was first Representative Sean Williams saying we need to look into the Jackson Labs situation and why Florida turned them down. Say amen, everyone, amen. And then Representative Berger saying, well, you got to understand this is a competitive process. No, it's not. This is not Macy's and Gimbels. This is a public. This is public money, taxpayer money. This is the state. And we need to know what's going on inside. But that's not the first order of business. Joining me on the hotline right now, Representative Sean Williams. Thank you for joining me this morning. I appreciate it.
Well, good morning, Jim. Thank you for having me. And despite your caller yesterday, I don't think you're a racist because you're a member of the Tea Party, just for the record.
Well, yeah, I'd forgotten all about that. This is the first time I had that one tossed at me, so I don't pay much attention to it. But look, I wanted to talk a little bit about this Jobs Council. I'm going to play a little bit of a soundbite for you here. This is you were on Face Estate on Sunday, and you were talking, and your cohort there was Democrat Representative Jeff Berger. And I was stunned when I heard him say, when he was talking about the way the state can get jobs created, when he came back and he said this.
Loan programs. We're building on brownfield remediation and development. First 5 will be extended. Let's go to 10. Let's also, when we do that, and Representative Williams is going to agree with me on this, let's really focus not only on Connecticut businesses in First 5, but let's bring in businesses from outside the state of Connecticut.
First of all, the first 5 was supposed to be businesses from outside the state of Connecticut, bringing new jobs into Connecticut. Secondly, where is the money coming from for a second 5? And the way the money is doled out at this particular point, would anyone trust them with any of our taxpayer money to start handing it out like Halloween candy, which, by the way, if Representative Larson has his way, will be on a Saturday?
Well, Jim, you made a couple of different points there, and the first thing I would say is that I think there was a lot of us who were really disappointed in the way that the first round of the First 5 program was administered. You know, I think, as you said, most of us thought, well, we're going to try to bring in some businesses from out of state and spur the economy a little bit that way, and that's just not what happened. I mean, I think that it highlights the problem that we have here in the state of Connecticut, and that is that it is not a good place to do business. People of their own volition do not want to come here, and I think the governor realized that there was companies that are already existing Connecticut companies who, you know, he felt like he had to prop up as a way to create jobs, and that's just not an economic model that we should be seeking after. So,
well, it sounded to me like nobody was taking advantage of First 5. Notice how long we waited. So he finally had to sort of push the pedal of the metal and just hand out the money so he could say, oh, look, we had a First 5. I mean, I'm just baffled. And then where does Representative Berger, pray tell, expect to get the money when this state still has a deficit, when this state is still the largest tax increase in the history of the state, and it's never enough money? I'm trying to remember the name of the representative who was also on Face State a few weeks ago, who said we need more revenue sources, new revenue sources. I mean, what the heck is going on over there?
Yeah, I mean, it's never enough, Jim, as you said. I mean, let's face it. You know, we had the largest deficit in modern times here in our state this year, and instead of cutting spending, we increased spending as well as increased taxes. So, you know, we didn't send a signal. And I said this on Face the State, and I know you saw it, but I have to repeat that, you know, we were supposed to be focusing of the last 6 months of our session on jobs. That was going to be the job session. And then on the last night of the session, the governor comes in and says, you know what, we're going to come back in October, and we're going to spend a day talking about jobs. And let's face it, not only did we do some things that were very harmful to the business community, like paid sick leave and the largest tax increase in the history of the state, but there's many things that we missed opportunities on that we didn't do that we should have done. And so, you know, we did not send a signal to the world that Connecticut is open for business. You can say we're open for business all you want. That doesn't mean that we are. And if we continue to pile on regulation after regulation after regulation, if we continue to pile on tax increases, I don't care how many First 5s you do, I don't care how many programs you set up to give away money to groups like Jackson Labs, we're never going to create jobs on our own.
Well, that's a fact, and things you have to have a conducive business environment. You know this, Sean, Representative. You know that the small businesses told the GOP, look, we need the state to get their foot off our throat, get their boot off our throat, and let us do business without you putting mandate after mandate after mandate on us. And let me add as well, you point this out on your website, and you've always been behind this. You want to lower property taxes. Stop putting mandates on cities and towns. Amend binding arbitration. I mean, this is just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to lower property taxes, the way to do that is to control your cost at the local level. And Chris Christie's working on that in New Jersey with collective bargaining reform and a variety of other things that he's doing mandate-wise. And so we need to do that here in Connecticut. But you know, Jim, the bottom line is that the majority Democrats in the legislature do not have the stomach to stand up to some of the absurdities in public employee union and the public employee union world. And so unless and until we're willing to make tough decisions, then things are never going to change here in the state. We're nibbling around the edges. You know, we're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, and that is what is so dangerous about what we're doing this week with the Jackson Labs situation and what we didn't do for the last 6 months in our legislative session.
You know, it took me on Tuesday when this whole thing started to explode, 5 minutes on Google. I had watched Mark Davis on Channel 8 say that Connecticut had stolen, which obviously that's the way the state puts it. The state had stolen Jackson Labs right out from underneath the nose of Florida. Now, that is not true. First, the state turned down Jackson Lab funding. Then the city of Sarasota had a chance to do it on its own, and they said no to Jackson Labs. And the reason they said no, and it takes a 5-minute search on Google to find this out, was they didn't believe Jackson Labs. They didn't trust them. They didn't believe that they were going to do what they said they were going to do. They didn't believe they could do what they said they were going to do. And that's why the state of Florida said no. And the fact that we're just going to go ahead with this without any investigation, and you said on Face the State, we need to find out why Florida said no. And that's what they did. Florida said no. And if you want to know why they said no, I mean, you can do a Google search. My guess is, Representative Williams, you could pick up the phone and call Governor Scott, and you could find out for yourself.
Well, you know, on top of that, I mean, they have something like $256 million worth of assets in Maine, and so anybody who has that level of assets, you would think, could go to a lender and get someone to lend you the money, but not if it's not a good deal, and not if there's not going to be a rate of return. And that's when organizations wind up coming to the state looking for money, when there's not going to be a good rate of return for a private lender to take some risk. So, okay, the taxpayers will take the risk. Well, that's pretty unhealthy when the taxpayers keep putting up more and more and more risk, and that's what scares me about this project. I mean, I think the possibilities are there, but not unless they're willing to put some skin in the game, and they're obviously not willing.
I don't know what those possibilities are. I mean, they have said this is kind of like a new venture for them. And then when it came to jobs, we hear the head of Jackson Labs come and sit before you guys and say, oh, these aren't going to be just any research scientists. We're going to bring them in from around the world. Which scientists are you bringing in from around the world? Do you have a roster for us? Do you have anything you can show us? Anything.
Yeah, you know, Jim, I guess it goes back to that fundamental question, which is, why is government in the job creation business to
That's
begin
a good
with?
question.
Why don't we just get out of the way of small businesses and let them create jobs on their own? And you know what? As we talked about on Face, you know, the casino issue, et cetera. I mean, I don't want to have an economy built around Jackson Labs or Mohegan Sun or, you know, any particular government-driven entity. I want to have an economy based on a free market where small businesses are creating jobs and taking risk and creating wealth. And we're not allowing that to happen if we continue to prop up businesses with taxpayer dollars, put taxpayers at further risk with what we're doing, and further regulate the economy to the point where nobody can do it.
Well, here's what I think we're going to get on Wednesday, and you can tomorrow, and you can tell me if you think I'm wrong. They're going to propose more spending, more taxpayer money, extending first five, more small business loans, whatever the heck that is. Small business doesn't need a loan. Small business needs you to get out of the way. That's what small business needs more than anything else. What good is a loan if you just keep raising the cost of doing business. It does you no good. And besides, it's all just patching and bribing and picking winners and losers. I'm just terribly afraid what we will get is the typical Democrat agenda, the typical liberal agenda that we've been getting for a long time. Representative Berger on Face the State says, we've been working for the last 4 years on jobs. Really? Well, unemployment's at 9.1%. And between 1980 and 1990, we created 200,000 jobs in the state. In the early 1990s, when we put in the income tax, since then, we've created 80,000 jobs. I mean, that tells you all you need to know. Stop working on jobs. Stop it.
That's exactly right. I mean, as one of your callers earlier said, that they hope that we do this Halloween thing because that means that we're not focusing and doing any more damage. And there's something to be said for that. The more we try to tweak with our laws and say, okay, we're going to prop up this business, we're going to prop up that business, we're going to give credits here, we're going to give credits there, the more problems we create. And so, let's face it, the majority of the legislature are not business owners. And when we go around the state and we talk to business owners, we hear a far different story than what we hear in the halls of the state capitol. Business owners are not saying we need more tax credits, we need more this, we need more that. They're saying just get out of our way and let us do our jobs.
Well, before I let you go, I'll tell you I'm not optimistic about tomorrow, but maybe you can tell me I should be.
Well, listen, we're not going to hit any home runs, Jim. I'm not going to lie to you. I think there's probably some base hits that we can hit, some regulations that we can repeal or reform, and I think there's going to be some little things that are positive. But if anybody's going to come on your show and try to convince you or your listeners that this is the be-all and end-all, they're lying to your face. This is not the be-all and end-all. There are so many more things that we need to do going forward to reduce the cost of doing business and get out of the way. And we're not going to do it tomorrow, but I hope we can do it soon. We don't have much time.
No, we don't. State Representative Sean Williams, 68th, is that right?
You got it.
There we go, 68th District. Thanks for joining me this morning. I really appreciate it.
Jim, thanks so much. Have a good one.
Take care. We'll be right back.